I do think Singapore is a food paradise. I had char kway teow this morning, which I know may not be the healthiest of all the meals, but it tastes so darn good. And that's sort of a big message. Nothing is healthier than fun. And so if you're eating food that makes you feel good about life, in moderation, then I'm okay with that. In fact, I always tell people, don't eat food that's good for you. Eat food you love that happens to be good for you. And in Singapore, you have lots of opportunities to do just that. Plus, I like the coconut base of a lot of the foods. Coconut oil itself has a lot of middle chain triglycerides. These are sort of fats that are in the middle size. They're not the long fats that animal protein often has with it. And so the body can digest those and take advantage of it in a more effective way. I also think that if you have a cultural food where the food looks like it does when it comes out of the ground, if you can actually recognize the food as having grown, that's a good thing. And in Singapore, there's still a desire to eat food that looks just like that. So I'm proud of the culture. A lot of parents feel overwhelmed. They're working, they've got lots of demands on their time, and they don't want to spend a lot of effort making food for their kids. But it's one of the biggest mistakes that families can make. And there's two reasons for it. First, food brings families together. It's a time where you can actually sit around the table and connect. And that's what humans have done for all of known human civilization. But secondly, if your kids don't learn to cook because they see you cook, they're not going to know how to do it themselves. So you're building a cultural habit that's going to be different than what your parents gave you. And so carve something out. Figure simple, easy, streamlined ways of making food. I spend a lot of time talking about it on my show because I'm so passionate about this. But if you can get 5-minute, 10-minute recipes rapidly made with healthy ingredients, in fact that's all it takes, then you can make the dots connect, feed your family correctly, and still maintain that cultural connection to food that we've always had. Let's talk about the change around the world in diabetes. Now, my show is in 100 countries. I'm traveling around and I see the same basic reports. As in Singapore, most countries say they're going to double their diabetes rates. It's mostly type 2 diabetes, which has not a little bit of a genetic connection, but not like type 1 diabetes where your pancreas stops working. Type 2 diabetes is when the body becomes resistant to insulin, and that's usually caused because you've gained weight. And unfortunately, the weight gain is something that's an epidemic because we don't understand the very fundamentals of how we need to eat anymore. And we've lost control of our lives, so we deal with that stress by using the one thing we control, which is our hand and the fork at the end of our arm that has food on it. And it leads to habits and coping mechanisms that include simple carbohydrates. So if you shift the way you think about food, don't see it as just some tool for getting calories into your body, but rather see it as one of the most important ways you offer nourishment to the body. Because the brain's not counting calories, the brain's counting nutrients. Eat foods that have rich nutrient value. Even if you eat too much of them, you're still going to be better off. And I'll give you an example. Nuts. Nuts have fat, nuts have calories, but nuts have nutrients too, because they're baby trees. So all the data shows that people who eat nuts, although they have calories, lose weight. Why? Because they stop eating, because their brain says, I got all the nutrients I need, you can stop, you can pull back. The increasing diabetes rates are linked to a large extent from that food shift, but also to the loss of activity among young people. And I think we should go back to the old days where kids are sent outside to play till it gets dark. Don't arrange 10-minute play dates. Send outside the kids. Well, parents do have responsibility for their kids, but they shouldn't beat themselves up over the fact that their kids are overweight. Instead of giving everyone a hard time, look proactively at automating your life so you do the right things. So in HealthCore, our Kids Health Foundation, we do a couple things. First, we make sure kids understand very simply about the foods they want to avoid, which are the white foods. White flour, white pasta, white sugar, all the white stuff. Even if it's hidden in foods, is a problem for you. And secondly, we want them to go outside and get activity. And that means automating activity. Park further from the store, walk to it, walk up the stairs at school or in workplaces, and do it with your kids. You have an opportunity to get healthier yourself and get your kids healthier at the same time and build lifelong habits you'll both benefit from. Don't run away from that obligation. I have cheat days like everyone else should have cheat days. I actually think there's nothing healthier than laughing and having a good time at a meal. So you want to have times when you're not doing everything perfectly. Plus it gets lonely if you're always on a diet. You want to be with your friends and family. So my weakness is chocolate covered nuts, but it's real chocolate. I know I eat them, I know I can't stop, so I make sure it's the healthiest version of that bad food I can imagine. So 70% cocoa, wrapped around nuts, I get away with it and I'm okay. Boy, the world has changed. We've got lots of options. Using spices is really important. A lot of people don't know how to season their food. You can make anything taste good if you know what peppers to add. You could actually even add salt. Because the problem with salt is not the salt that you add to your food, it's the salt that's already in your food because it's packaged and processed. So add your own salt, add your own spices, make mixtures of spices that you like a lot, and when you flavor it up a bit, you can make really, really tasty stuff out there so you won't crave any of that junk anymore. Take care.